Hello and welcome. If you're here, it's because you have likely a Bendix air dryer governor for your semi, and today we're going to show you how to replace one of those. So first thing we're going to do is pop off the air lines, and this job can generally be done with some pretty simple tools. You don't need a lot to swap out an air governor. You know, a crescent wrench, maybe a vice grips, and on this particular unit, a set of Allen hex keys. Now this, for sake of demonstration, I'm using the absolute cheapest of these wrenches. So this one is pretty terrible to work with, but it'll work for what we need to do today, which fortunately is a simple task. So we just unscrew these airlines, and ideally remember where they were positioned, which one was top, which one was bottom. In my case, black was on top and gray was on bottom. You can tell though, because of the mix of a push fitting and a compression fitting, that someone has messed with this truck before and slightly modified what was factory. I'm not really thrilled to see that, because it makes me kind of wonder what other surprises lurk within this truck, which, you know, follow over time. We're gonna find out. It'll be a fun journey. These fittings, they're brass, and they should come out pretty easily. Just make sure not to over tighten them too dramatically, because brass fittings do have a tendency to break, and if that were to happen, well, not exactly going anywhere without an air system functioning. So we'd be kind of not in a good place. But generally with these type of applications, you don't usually break anything, so we're not going to get too into that today. But you want to start with what you've got to remove before you remove the governor unit, because if you have this off of the truck, it can be a royal pain to get the leverage that you need to remove these things later. This is kind of a pain to get at these. Not exactly a great place with this copper line in my way, so we're gonna take a short pause. I'm gonna grab a wrench and do it the proper way. All right, well, I found a socket instead, so sorry, lied. We're using a socket. That's okay, same concept still applies. We just want to unscrew these guys and set them in a safe place where they won't get dropped. That could really ruin your day fast if you lose something like this. Been there, done it. Not a lot of fun. But this is a project you're gonna find yourself doing if you are driving along, let's say, and you discover, this is where these hex keys come into play, you discover that your truck is no longer building the appropriate air pressure. Now there could be several causes for that, but one of the causes could be that your governor is what tells the air compressor to keep filling it up. And this is a key detail, because your air dryer is where these lines go back to, right here. And basically it's told, are we under 100 or 120, whatever it's set to PSI, yes or no. And if we're under that, then this tells the air compressor, hey, we got to keep doing more work here. And then you end up building air pressure. If you are, and then it's programmed to stop at the 120 mark is usually what people have them set to. And you know, very simple operation. Now, you're going to notice when you buy one of these, they come with all the holes opened up, but the one that we have is capped off in a couple places. Well, good news is somebody was actually thinking, and they have addressed that issue. If I can get it out of the bag. We'll pick that up in a little bit. Generally, these are going to come with 4 hex head screws and a gasket. Now the gasket we'll set to the side, and we need, for our operation, we need this hole plugged up. I should probably check what size it is. Here we go. This will speed things up a little bit to just wrench them right in. And then, so these 2 are plugged. This one on this side is plugged. So we're just going to duplicate what we see. As long as you put it back exactly the way it was, there's no reason for it not to work. And then these 2 are open. Perfect. So, is there anywhere where I would need this 4th one? Because if I'm not seeing any spot. Those 2 are plugged. That one. That's the open one. Alright, it looks like we won't actually need the 4th one on this job. Perfect. So then, before you try to install it, because some of these might be in a place you can't get to them once it's installed, go ahead and send these things home. These ones fortunately came with a paste on them, that little amount of white that you can see on the threads, so we shouldn't have any air leaks when they're tied in and snug. To my knowledge, there's not actually like a torque range for these. Just get them tight as you can kind of get them without feeling like you're gonna break anything. I'd say that's pretty good. And then we'll set this guy up here. Now, the next thing you're going to want to have handy is a razor blade or a scraper of sorts. Fortunately, I always carry a folding utility knife just for these sorts of jobs, because we get into them more often than what I'd like to, but it's pretty regular maintenance. I've always replaced the governor every year when I replace the air dryer right before winter time sets in. So we scrape that old gasket off just like so, get a nice clean surface, and then before you cut yourself, put your razor blade back in a sheath of some form. Make sure that that's not gonna bite you later. Now your gasket is gonna sit on there like that. The easiest way I know of to get the gasket to stay held on is to send the top bolt through it, and then go ahead and send that in a few threads with your fingers. And if you go just to where it's kind of snug like this, but not too tight, then the gasket shouldn't be too pinched where you can have the flexibility to get this second one in there without too much hassle. And there we have it, sending that one home too. Now we're going to want to tighten this up, and once again, it's nothing too crazy. There are no torque specs that I am aware of, which I could be very wrong, but I've never had a problem just going, as you know, pretty solidly tight. But bear in mind, you know, if you're a particularly strong person, you might be able to just snap these bolts off or peel some threads back too. So, you know, tight, but not to the point of breaking. That's just kind of a general theme. I would say that's good and solid. Now, ordinarily I would put some thread paste or tape of Teflon tape on these threads. I'm out in the truck stop right now and fixing this in kind of a bit of a hurry because I suspect it had a problem. So it's not going to get that today because I don't have any, oddly enough. You know, normally these are things that are in a box under my bed, pretty standard procedure for me to have, but no dice this time. So we're going to do this by just kind of getting these nice and snug where I feel as though it's not going to be a problem, and I'll check for leaks later, and if I have to, pull it back apart and put tape on it. But I got a feeling that when you know, brass and aluminum are both pretty flexible, so if you get it pretty snug, there shouldn't be any problem here. Now we'll just put our fittings back in where they go. If we remember back from the beginning, I had the compression fitting on the bottom and the non-compression fitting on top. And I might have actually screwed it. Yes, I did. Okay, my top one has to go in first. That's my bad. Sometimes when you're in a little bit of a hurry, you get distracted with yourself and you forget that there was a reason why there was an order to things. Kind of like all those plugs that I put in earlier, here and then on the back side. Sure, it could be done, but it would be a bit of a pain to put those in now. I think most people would agree on that. Alright, now we can send this guy home. The angle we wanted? I would say so. We'll put this one on first just for the sake of getting it out of the way. And this is sure to be a slightly time-consuming thread in because of the tight area upon which this is located. I could move this air line that goes from the intake to the compressor, where the compressor gets its air from, but I feel like that's just adding more of a job than there needs to be, so we will not be doing that today if we can avoid it. See if it gets any better from the bottom here. Yeah, it's a little better. Yeah, sometimes you try some weird angles and whatnot when you're working on these trucks. You know, you could get specialty smaller tools, but kind of the point of this was to demonstrate that we could use the most basic of tools: an adjustable wrench, a cheap socket set, and a very, very cheap set of hex keys that came inside of a Stanley socket set that I had bought years and years back. And you know, this is pretty much the only job I ever use hex keys for, so kind of an odd deal that they put them in every freaking socket set. But who am I to judge? It helps out on this, so maybe they got a point. We got a couple threads left to go and we'll be done. But maintaining air pressure, as any CDL driver knows, is critical, because your suspension operates off of air, your brakes operate off of air, heck, even your seat probably is operating off of air pressure. So we want to make sure that we are very delicate with maintaining our air related systems and parts. Alright, and there we go. Job well done. New parts on. I can pick up my garbage, and hopefully this helps someone out. Stay safe out there, keep the rubber side down, and we'll catch you in the next Fix It episode.